This week on Priorities, an update on New York's citywide privacy policy. Welcome to State Scoop's Priorities podcast, where every Wednesday you'll get insights into the state and local government community and learn about the latest news and trends across the industry. I'm Colin Wood, State Scoop's editor-in-chief. Here's what's happening this week. A spokesperson from the Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency confirmed on Tuesday that it removed support from the Multi-State Information Sharing and Analysis Center. In a statement shared with State Scoop, the spokesperson said the action will save taxpayers $10 million annually. State and local technology officials said the MSISAC, which was created in 2004, has been a valuable resource as they've sought to protect their networks from a growing barrage of cyber attacks. Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick last week announced that his department is removing the, quote, pointless requirements inserted by former President Joe Biden into a major broadband program that is set to deliver high-speed internet to millions of Americans. Lutnick said the $42.45 billion Broadband Equity, Access, and Deployment program had been hampered by, quote, woke mandates. At the GitHub headquarters in San Francisco last week, software developers gathered for a hackathon where they used their coding skills to help bring information services to survivors of the recent Los Angeles wildfires. You can read more about these stories and others on statescoop.com. In this episode, State Scoop staff reporter Keely Quinlan interviews New York City Chief Privacy Officer Michael Fitzpatrick, who was a guest on the podcast about 2 years ago. He's back with an update on the city's privacy policy, which he said could foster improved collaboration between the city's privacy and cybersecurity teams.
So it's been about 2 years since we last spoke, about how it's going with building out the city's privacy program. Can you tell me about how things have progressed? What's going on?
Thanks, Keely, and it's a pleasure to be back with you. Boy, does time fly. I can't believe it's been 2 years since we last connected.
Right.
But that's actually kind of serendipitous for the cadence that we operate here in New York City from a privacy governance perspective. As I think we've mentioned before, we have a local privacy law here in New York City known as the Identifying Information Law. We've had that law in effect since 2017, or passed in 2017, effective in 2018. And what that law did was create a citywide governance from a privacy perspective for all city agencies, including creating the role of the chief privacy officer and empowering that person to set citywide privacy policy. Within the bounds of that law, every 2 years, we go through an exercise here in New York City where all New York City agencies survey their privacy policies and practices and report those policies and practices to the chief privacy officer, as well as the mayor and the speaker of the city council. From there, a body also defined under our local law known as the Citywide Privacy Protection Committee convenes to review those submitted reports and provide recommendations to the chief privacy officer, along with the mayor and the speaker of the city council, on how we can move citywide privacy policy forward based on the experiences that we're countering on a citywide level. And so when we last spoke in 2023, one of the priorities that we had was to really harmonize our citywide privacy policies from a technology perspective, factoring our new home as an office, that is our home, our office being the Office of Information Privacy, within the, at the time, newly created Office of Technology and Innovation, which Mayor Adams created by Executive Order 3, bringing together the Office of Information Privacy, the Office of Cyber Command, and the city's other technology-related offices to coordinate more effective and efficient services for New Yorkers. So in that space, we defined a number of policy improvements, improving the cadence, calling for model cadence of engagement with our partners at the Office of Cyber Command, providing template agendas for discussion between our agency privacy officers and agency chief information security officers, harmonizing the approach for investigating a privacy incident with the approach for investigating a cybersecurity incident, recognizing there needs to be sufficient dexterity to hand off between the two practice areas. You can have a privacy incident evolve to a cybersecurity incident. You can have a cybersecurity incident evolve into a privacy incident. So we need to have that flexibility. But that was 2023. Between 2023 and 2025, we took, I think, a very significant step forward from a functional privacy governance perspective. We continue to lay that groundwork and build on the foundations that we've had in years prior. But the intention was to also start to be a little bit more targeted in the guidance that we're providing, in the policy that we're providing on a citywide level. So what's an example of that? One such update that we have is for model privacy policies for projects and initiatives. A routine work stream that we're often encountering as an office that we're asked to support our agency clients is we're building a new program or an initiative with a public nexus. Can you help us craft a privacy policy to convey sufficient information to the public about what's happening with their information? And so from there, we created a baseline of what we think good looks like in order to help scale good privacy practice across New York City.
Gotcha. Yeah, that's a lot.
That's a lot.
Yeah, and so, you touched on this a little bit and kind of talking about that, but one of the things we talked about last was how revisions to that privacy policy, right, would help the privacy and cyber arms work better together. So how is that going specifically? What does that relationship look like now?
Oh, it's we strengthen by the day, and that's really looking back now, almost 4 years being into this role. You have to look at where you started, and where I started coming into this role as a chief privacy officer, and talking with my team. Our office had routine engagements with the Office of Cyber Command, but we reported in different silos. That's solved by bringing us together here at the Office of Technology and Innovation. But our folks actually hadn't ever been in the same room as Cyber Command. We've never been to their offices, for example. And so that was a simple step that we took early on, along with the great partnership that I have with our citywide Chief Information Security Officer, Kelly Moen, in bringing our universes together. And so that only continues to strengthen. We, in 2023, provide our first of its kind model investigation plan, harmonizing the two practice areas. We have those template agendas that I've spoken about further, and we've continued to invest in that engagement. So as an office here at the Office of Information Privacy, we've expanded our personnel headcount, bringing on additional attorney resources. Those folks have dedicated agency clients, and those agency clients and relationships are matched with the engagements that we have here at the Office of Cyber Command. So that way we have continuity of, we've got a dedicated counsel handling this particular agency who's experiencing this particular circumstance under investigation. The Office of Cyber Command knows who they should be engaging with on that basis. Again, simple but important from a governance perspective.
Yeah, I hear you. I the simple but important transition here I think is going to be very interesting as far as it goes with talking about AI, right? So I know that the city released an AI action plan in October of 2023, and privacy is key to factoring in around how to use AI ethically and responsibly. That's been a conversation topic across states and cities, for the last 2 years. So tell me about how that kind of fits into that relationship between privacy and cyber. I know partnerships were also key to that action plan, internal and external. So can you speak a little bit more about that?
Absolutely. When you're thinking about AI, it's very easy to get a bit overwhelmed by the complexity of the technology and the capability of the technology. I think it's important to kind of take a step back, and that's often how I advise folks. Let's take a step back, and let's think, at a very basic level, how are these systems functioning, and they need information to function. And so, from our perspective, from a privacy perspective, to what extent, if at all, is identifying information involved in the utilization of those technologies. And from there, obviously, our local law and privacy governance is triggered. So very, very, very simple, but can be difficult to implement if you're not in the right place and not in the right conversations. Fortunately, because we are here at the Office of Technology and Innovation, and because that was the AI action plan that you referenced was a signature publication of this agency, we had a seat at the table to support the initial drafting of that plan, and we continue to have a seat at the table as that plan is implemented. So, for example, two of the signature publications released so far pursuant to the AI action plan, New York City's AI principles and preliminary guidance regarding or concerning the use of generative artificial intelligence. We had the opportunity to participate in the drafting of those materials, but most significantly, harmonizing those publications with the existing city policy and privacy laws that already exist. So head nodding rather, the AI principles to our citywide privacy principles, for example, creating that continuity and harmonization across governance streams.
Yeah, yeah. Just in like thinking about the last, couple of things we've talked about, there's been, so many developments. So I'm just curious, like in the last 2 years, is there something that comes top of mind when I ask, like, what are you most proud of?
Oh boy.
Not meant to be a difficult one.
No, I'm very, very lucky, truly, and it starts at the top. Mayor Adams and our Chief Technology Officer Matt Frazier have been terrific partners in terms of investing in our office and positioning our office as a meaningful stakeholder in citywide operations. That in and of itself is something that we can be very, very proud of. It doesn't necessarily have to be that way. It can be much, much more difficult. Similarly, talking about the partnership that exists with our security colleagues doesn't have to be that way. But I have a very common goal and common alignment with our CISO Kelly Moen. We want to have a strong governance and strong relationship that exists beyond the time that each of us exists in our respective roles, because we think it's that important to protecting the information that the public entrusts us with. We can talk about the investments that we've made as an office in our privacy workforce. That included a first of its kind privacy summit that we held this past year for our agency privacy officers. For the first time ever, we brought them together, one physical space for a day of programming provided by our office and our colleagues across city government that dealt with very practical and meaningful issues that they would be encountering. For example, having our director of AI converse with them about the AI action plan and the supporting policy that's coming that's relevant to them, giving them the opportunity to hear directly from him, to having our security partners join us to talk about what is the incident response lifecycle, how is an investigation conducted when there's the potential for personal information being compromised, through traditional legal services. What does a good data sharing agreement look like? Data sharing agreements aren't the most attractive, work stream. They can be very, very complex, but they're critically important. Doing it well, doing due diligence well, thinking about what are the relationships that are being established and what information is being transacted, and how the parties are going to coordinate if something goes poorly, is a really important element of our work. We did all of that as an office, and we actually were able to achieve a sufficient level of sophistication where we were able to offer our APO colleagues both New York State continuing legal education, as well as International Association of Privacy Professionals continuing privacy education credit for attending the event, including the newly created AI-related certification that body offers. We were able to offer credit for it. Not an insignificant achievement. It takes a lot of effort to put on an event like that, and we were able to do it while keeping the lights on and doing our day jobs for New Yorkers.
Yeah, absolutely. That's wild. I'm glad you touched on workforce, because that was definitely something I wanted to talk about. I feel like most folks in the public sector right now are thinking about issues around this. And I know for y'all, you guys have hosted a handful of cohorts from Fordham University that are interested in privacy through an externship. Can you talk a little bit about that? And if the program was a success, what factored into that? And, I'm pretty sure the folks listening here would be really interested in learning how to replicate something like that within their own space.
Absolutely. Could have very easily included the Fordham externship on the list of things that I'm proud of, because I truly am. When we think about that partnership, I think it's really important to kind of look back more holistically at Fordham Law School itself. And in particular, it being a first mover in the privacy academic space. Fordham was one of the initial law schools, I think, to create a Center on Law and Information Policy. And it was founded by the late Professor Joel Riedenberg. And Professor Riedenberg, I think, is still regarded as a very influential thought leader and legal academic on the intersection of law and technology, writing back in the 90s that intersection is not just an IT issue. For law to be meaningfully applied and evolved in this space, it requires the bringing together of not just IT, but lawyers, policy professionals, executives, et cetera. And so it's that spirit that founded the Fordham Center on Law and Information Policy that really strikes with the purpose and intent of our Office of Technology and Innovation. I think the same goals and same values are attended between the two, which was why we endeavored to partner with Fordham on this important workforce development. From a workforce development perspective, we give the opportunity for law students to meaningfully engage on what does a central government privacy office do. For our operations, which we have to be prepared for advising from health law to financial law and everything in between. If there's a privacy nexus, we're able to kind of span that full gambit of experience for our law students. But I think equally significant is the opportunity that we're able to provide for our existing staff. So our existing full-time staff here has the opportunity to engage with these law students who are very enthusiastic about our work. But we also have the opportunity for two of our staff members to teach a seminar at the law school as part of this program. So we've been able to, by virtue of this relationship, give folks the opportunity to be adjunct professors of law, which is not an insignificant achievement for folks in the legal profession, and I think a meaningful investment in our personnel.
Oh, definitely. I think like mentorship programs are just severely underrated. Generally, like I think they're so cool.
Well, it's funny that you bring that up, and it's again, it starts with the top. And if you actually look to the leadership of the Office of Technology and Innovation, there's a frequent common denominator among a not insignificant amount of the executive staff, including up to the CTO, myself, and a few others. We got our start in city service as summer interns. And
wow.
So we really see the value. We've lived the value of the experience of spending a summer or a part-time basis with a city agency can foster a career of public service. And so I think we all feel very much a responsibility of paying that opportunity forward to the next generation of New Yorkers and future public servants.
Yeah, definitely. Well, that's sweet. And, to end on an even better note, I'd love to hear about what you guys have coming down the pipeline in the next year. Is there anything exciting you can share with us about what to expect from your office?
Sure. Can't give too much away, so I'll say that that folks should stay tuned to at NYC Office of Tech across social media channels to stay updated on our day to day. But for us, it's what we lovingly refer to it as a non-compliance year. We've got a year between that citywide compliance exercise. And so we have a lot of really significant initiatives that we are working towards from a public engagement perspective. For example, one of the meaningful policy updates that we included in this go-round was a requirement that every city agency maintain an ability for New Yorkers to submit a complaint for if their information has been misused in some way, if there has been a negative privacy action perceived by the public. That's something that we're endeavoring to standardize across city agencies to increase visibility. And so there'll be investments in that space to make sure that that policy requirement is being implemented in a way that's certainly intended. But I think also equally significant, while we are a first mover in terms of municipal privacy governance, we've got partner cities that have established privacy offices within recent years that we maintain regular dialogue with to exchange best practices. And so that's something that I know that we are interested in continuing to foster across the coming year, and there may be more in that space in the future.
If you haven't already, you can subscribe to the Priorities Podcast at prioritiespodcast.com or on any of the big podcast platforms. And if you enjoyed this episode, please let us know by leaving a comment or rating or messaging us on social media. This podcast is a production of Scoop News Group in Washington, D.C. Thank you to Adam Butler and Carlin Fisher for their wonderful production work. That's it for this episode. I'm Colin Wood signing off. Thanks for listening.